I didn't mean to linger that night. The office was already dark, the last hum of the printer echoing like a heartbeat, and I was waiting for my ride when I saw her through the glass wall of the conference room. She wasn't supposed to be there. She was supposed to be at home with him, my boss, but instead she was sitting alone at the head of the table, elbows on the wood, staring down at a cold cup of coffee. I'd only met her twice before, at company dinners where everyone smiled too brightly. Tonight she wasn't smiling. The harsh overhead light had been switched off. A single desk lamp threw a soft glow over her face. Without the makeup and the polite laugh, she looked tired. Real. Her hair had slipped from its clip and curled at her shoulders. For a second I forgot to breathe. I knocked on the doorframe, a small, careful sound. "You're still here?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my voice cracked at the end. She looked up slowly. Her eyes were darker than I remembered, and softer. "I was waiting," she said. "Traffic's bad. Thought I'd sit here until it clears." She gave a small shrug, like she was apologizing for existing. I stepped inside before thinking. "Do you want me to? Should I call you a car?" My hands were already in my pockets, gripping the lining so I wouldn't fidget. "No, thank you." Her gaze drifted back to the coffee. "I like the quiet." We stood there in that quiet. The city outside was a smear of neon, but in the room everything was still. I could hear the faint hiss of the air conditioner. She rubbed her thumb along the rim of the cup, round and round, a nervous loop she probably didn't notice. I wanted to sit, but didn't know if it was allowed. "You don't have to stay on my account," she said, not looking at me. "I'm not," I said too quickly. "My ride's late." That made her smile, just a little. "Late rides," she murmured. "They can be a blessing." I don't know what she meant, but I sat across from her anyway. The chair squeaked. She glanced at me, one eyebrow raised, but she didn't tell me to leave. Her perfume, something warm and faintly citrus, drifted across the table. It reminded me of the hotel lobby where I'd first seen her on my first day of work. "You look different tonight," I said before I could stop myself. Her thumb stilled on the cup. "Different?" She tilted her head. More relaxed? Not like the dinners." My face was burning. "Sorry, that sounded, no." Her voice softened. "You're right. Those dinners aren't really me." We both laughed, but quietly. The laugh died and left a long space between us. She folded her hands and finally met my eyes. It wasn't a polite glance, it was steady, almost searching. I felt something shift under my ribs. "I shouldn't be talking like this with you," she whispered, and yet she didn't look away. I swallowed hard. "Why not?" Her phone vibrated on the table, screen lighting up with his name. She didn't reach for it. Instead, she kept her gaze on me, just one heartbeat longer, and then the sound of a door opening down the hall broke the silence. The hallway door clicked shut somewhere beyond the conference room, but neither of us moved. Her phone still buzzed on the table, the screen fading in and out with his name. Finally she reached over, flipped it face down, and pressed her palm flat against it as if to stop the vibration. "I wasn't supposed to be here tonight," she said, almost to herself. I tried to keep my voice level. "You're waiting for him?" She gave a small, humorless laugh. "Not exactly." She sat back, fingers laced tightly in her lap. "He's busy. I told him I'd drop off some papers, but really I just needed to breathe." She looked at me then, as if gauging how much she'd revealed. "You're too young for all this office drama." "I'm 24, I said, defensive before I meant to be. "Old enough to see when someone's unhappy." Her eyes flickered, a mix of surprise and something softer. "I was 24 once," she murmured. "Married by 27. Thought I'd built a life I understood." I shifted in my chair. "Did you?" She stared at the blank wall beyond me. I don't know anymore. The air felt heavier, like the office had swallowed all its oxygen. I kept telling myself to leave, to wait for my ride downstairs, but my body stayed put. I wanted to ask her why she'd married him, what she saw in him that she didn't see now, but the questions clotted in my throat. She rubbed her temples. You're his new assistant, right? Straight out of college? Yeah. Finance degree. Small town. First big job. I hesitated. First time living in the city? That's a lot at once. She gave a faint smile. No one tells you how lonely it can be. I think they do, I said quietly. We just don't listen. Her smile faded. She looked down at her hands. A thin silver band caught the lamp's light. I hadn't noticed it before. She twisted it absently, then stopped. This is dangerous, she whispered. I leaned forward before I could think. Talking? Her gaze lifted and locked with mine. Feeling. The word hung there between us. I tried to laugh it off, but my throat closed. Images flashed. My boss shaking my hand on my first day, his wife standing beside him with that distant smile. I should have felt guilt. Maybe I did. But underneath it was a pull I couldn't name. She reached for her bag, fumbling with the zipper, and a photograph slid out, a candid of her younger self holding a baby, sunlight in her hair. She caught it too late. I picked it up and handed it back. Our fingers brushed barely, but the contact shot through me like a live wire. She froze, eyes wide. Thank you, she said softly. She didn't take the photo right away. Our hands stayed there, both of us holding the same picture, either letting go. The photograph trembled between our fingers. I could feel the warmth of her skin, the paper soft and worn from years of being touched. She drew a sharp breath, let go first, and slipped the photo back into her bag. We should stop, she said, but her voice sounded like a question. I know, I whispered. A noise echoed down the corridor, brisk footsteps, the low murmur of a man's voice on the phone. My stomach lurched. She straightened instantly, hair falling forward like a curtain, hands smoothing her skirt. It's him, she mouthed. I stood so fast my chair scraped the floor. The sound felt like a flare. The footsteps grew louder, then paused just outside the glass wall. My boss's silhouette appeared, backlit by the hall light, phone pressed to his ear. He didn't look in. He just kept walking, voice fading toward his office. Her shoulders sagged. She let out a shaky laugh. God! I exhaled slowly, heart slamming against my ribs. That was close. She pressed her fingers to her temples. This is insane. You're a kid compared to me. I'm married. He's your employer. We can't. She trailed off, staring at the table. I'm not a kid, I said. My voice came out sharper than I intended. And you're not happy. Silence. She turned her face to the window, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. Happiness isn't always the point, she murmured. I stepped closer, trying to read her expression in the dim light. Then what is? Her lips parted, but no answer came. She looked at me instead, really looked, like she was memorizing my face. The distance between us shrank without either of us moving. I can't do this, she whispered, but her hands didn't leave the edge of the table. I reached out, stopped just short of touching her. Then tell me to leave. She didn't. Her breath caught. The office door at the far end clicked again. Another voice floated in, my roommate's, calling my name. He must have come to pick me up after work. Her eyes widened, she stepped back, nearly tripping over the chair. Go, she hissed. I can't just, please. Her voice cracked on the word. The footsteps drew closer, my name echoing down the hall. I turned toward the door, but something held me there. She had pressed her palm flat to the glass, as if holding me back without touching me. For a heartbeat we stayed like that, me on one side of the table, her by the window, both of us caught between leaving and staying. Her eyes glimmered with something I couldn't name. Then my roommate's voice sounded right outside. I tore myself away and pushed the door open. Behind me I heard her whisper, so soft I almost missed it. "Don't disappear." Rain hammered the windows of the empty office 2 nights later. I hadn't planned to see her again, but my boss had left early for a conference, and she'd come by to drop off papers. When I walked past the reception desk, she was already there, standing alone, arms folded, watching the storm. "You came back," she said quietly. "I forgot my laptop." I lied. My heart was a drum. She gave a small, disbelieving smile. "You're a terrible liar." I set my bag down but didn't move closer. "And you're still wearing that ring," I said before I could stop myself. Her fingers twitched at the band. "Some habits are hard to break." We stood with the rain between us. Everything felt charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. She finally turned from the window, her eyes glistening. "Do you know how dangerous this is?" "Yeah," I said. "I think about it every night." Her breath caught. She stepped closer, voice trembling. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you look at me like you did just now," I blurted. "Like you see me. Like I'm not just another kid in a suit." She closed her eyes. "You're not. That's the problem." The storm cracked overhead. She moved past me, pacing. "I've spent half my life doing what's expected. Dinner parties. Charity boards. Pretending. And then you walk in and..." She stopped, covering her mouth. "This is insane." I followed, but not too close. "Tell me to go." She spun around, eyes blazing. "I can't." Her voice dropped. "And I hate that I can't." Silence. Only the rain. Then she took a step toward me, so close I could see the faint lines at the corners of her eyes, the trembling at the edge of her mouth. "My husband thinks I'm predictable," she whispered. "But lately he's been watching me like he knows something. He asked about you last night." A chill ran through me. "What did you say?" "That you're young. Ambitious. Harmless." Her lips trembled on the last word. And then he smiled. I swallowed hard. "You're scared." "No," she said. "I'm furious. At myself. At you. At how alive I feel when you're in the room." Her hand lifted, hovering near my chest but not touching. "Do you even understand what you're doing to me?" "Maybe," I said, my voice barely there. "Do you understand what you're doing to me?" We stood there, the world narrowing to her breath, her perfume, the faint heat between us. I could see her thinking, weighing, fighting herself. For a heartbeat I thought she'd kiss me, or slap me, or both. Instead she stepped back, eyes wide, as if she'd just seen the edge of a cliff. "Don't," she whispered. "Not yet." Lightning flashed, throwing our shadows huge across the walls. And then, from the hallway, came the sound of the elevator dinging open, a third set of footsteps approaching fast. The footsteps from the elevator echoed down the hall like warning shots. We both froze. Her eyes darted to the door. "He's back early," she whispered. My stomach turned to stone. "Your husband?" She nodded once, almost imperceptibly. "He wasn't supposed to be here until Friday." Before I could answer, the office door swung inward. It wasn't my boss. It was his secretary, Anna, a quiet, observant woman who never missed anything. She stopped in the doorway, eyes flicking from me to the boss's wife, then to the bag at her feet. "Sorry," Anna said slowly. "I didn't realize you were both here." She let the pause hang, heavy as a gavel. "We were just," I began. "Working," the wife said at the same time, her voice too bright. Anna's gaze lingered a second longer than necessary, then she nodded and left. The click of her heels faded, but the damage was done. She saw, I murmured. She suspects, she corrected, but her hands trembled as she zipped her bag. That's enough. I grabbed my laptop, my chest tight. We haven't done anything, it doesn't matter. She snapped, then immediately softened. It doesn't matter what we've done. It matters what people think we've done. He's been paranoid lately. Her eyes filled with a fear I hadn't seen before. He went through my phone last night. He's looking for a reason. Then we stop. I said, though the words cut me. We stop before this gets ugly. She looked at me, searching my face. You really think you can stop? I opened my mouth but nothing came out. My silence was the answer. She let out a shaky laugh, almost a sob. You're just like I was. Young enough to think you can control desire. The room felt smaller, hotter. And you? I asked. What are you going to do? For a moment she looked as though she might confess something huge. Instead, she pulled a folded envelope from her bag and handed it to me. He sent this, she said. To you? He asked me to deliver it personally. I stared at the envelope. My name scrawled across it in my boss's handwriting. What is it? Read it. Hands trembling, I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a transfer order. I was being moved to a branch office 2 states away. Effective immediately. My mouth went dry. He's sending me away? She nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. He knows, or he thinks he knows. Either way, he's separating us. The rain pounded harder on the windows. I folded the paper back into the envelope, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. What are you going to do? I whispered. She reached out then, fingers brushing my sleeve, the first time she touched me deliberately. I don't know, she said. But this isn't over. The transfer order lay on my desk like a verdict. For 2 days I didn't see her. I packed boxes, deleted drafts of emails, rehearsed a dozen versions of a goodbye I'd never send. The rain had stopped. The city was bright and brittle. It felt like the world was already forgetting me. On the 3rd night she came to my apartment. No text first, no warning. When I opened the door she stood in the hall, hair windblown, coat clutched tight, eyes hollow from lack of sleep. You weren't going to tell me, she said. I didn't know how, I answered. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. You're leaving tomorrow. I nodded. Your husband made sure of it. She paced the small living room, glancing at my half-packed suitcases. He thinks moving you will fix everything. He doesn't understand. Her voice broke. She pressed a hand to her mouth. Understand what? I asked. She stopped pacing and faced me. That you've become the only thing that feels real. Silence. My pulse roared in my ears. Then come with me, I said before I could stop myself. Leave him. Start over. She gave a sound between a laugh and a sob. You think it's that simple? No, I said. But I can't keep pretending. I can't leave without telling you. She stared at me for a long time. I built a life out of appearances, she whispered. A house, a marriage, a name. And then you walked in with your messy honesty and... She trailed off, tears slipping down her cheeks. I hate you for making me want more. I stepped closer. Then hate me there, I said softly. But tell me if you feel it too. Her hands trembled as she reached up and touched my face. A real touch, no accident, no brush of fingers over a photograph. Her palm was warm. Of course I feel it. She breathed. That's what terrifies me. I covered her hand with mine, pressing it to my cheek. Then what do we do? She closed her eyes. We tell the truth. For once. My throat ached. To him? To ourselves? She said. We stood like that, holding each other's hands against our faces, 2 people on the edge of a choice. She leaned in, so close I could feel her breath, smelled the faint citrus of her perfume. For a moment the whole city disappeared. Then she pulled back, wiping her eyes. If I cross that line tonight, she whispered, I can't go back. Neither can you. I swallowed hard. I'm already across. Her gaze locked with mine, raw, unguarded, nothing left hidden. Then wait for me, she said. Before I could answer, her phone lit up on the table, vibrating with his name again. She stared at it, then at me. I'm going to end this, she said. No matter what it costs. She turned toward the door. It was almost dawn when I saw her again. I'd spent the night half awake in a motel off the highway, my suitcases stacked like barricades at the door. The transfer papers were folded in my pocket, but I hadn't left yet. A knock sounded, soft, urgent. When I opened the door, she was there, no coat this time, just a sweater and jeans. She looked younger than I'd ever seen her, and older at the same time. I told him, she said. No hello. No hesitation. I told him everything. I gripped the doorframe. And? Her eyes were red but steady. He's furious. He threatened lawyers, reputation, everything. But it's done. I'm done. For a second I didn't know what to say. We'd spent weeks circling, hiding, almost touching, almost confessing. Now the thing we'd been afraid of had already happened. You came here, I said finally. Why? Because after I told him, she whispered, I didn't feel free. I just felt alone. And I didn't want to feel alone tonight. I stepped back and she came inside. The room smelled of stale coffee and rain-soaked asphalt. She sat on the edge of the bed, twisting her empty ring finger. The band was gone. I'm scared, she admitted. I don't know how to live without the mask. Without the schedule. Without someone telling me who I am. I knelt in front of her, hands on my knees. You don't have to know tonight. You just have to breathe. Her eyes filled, but she smiled, a real smile this time. You sound like you believe that. I'm trying to. I hesitated. Do you still want me to wait? She reached out, fingers grazing my hair. I'm not asking you to save me, she said. I'm asking if you'll walk next to me while I save myself. I took her hand and held it, feeling how small and strong it was. I can do that. We didn't kiss right away. We sat there instead, two people in the thin light of morning, our hands joined like a promise. The motel neon flickered through the curtains. Her shoulders sagged as if she'd set down something heavy. You're leaving for the new branch? She asked quietly. Not if you don't want me to. She shook her head. Go. Work. Build what you came here to build. Just don't disappear. I won't, I said. We'll figure it out. For the first time since the night in the conference room, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to mine, a small, steady contact, like a vow. Neither of us moved. Outside, the sun was rising. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?